was saying this shit before about this society right here under the woman's liberation era of the Americas. I mean, y'all government, all the households are predominantly ruled by women. So, and the Godhead is not their God in the image and likeness of a man. That man is not their father. The father is not home, and the head of the household is the woman. I hear little boys in athletics who maybe score a touchdown or win some type of MVP award always say, "Oh, I want to thank my mother. She was my mama and my daddy." No. She tried to be your father and your mother, and I know it's some strong single, parent homes where the kids come out all right and end up, but it's something that happened that love for the father is not there. I always see that. I mean, that's what I believe it is. They never say, "Oh, I want to thank my father in heaven. I want to thank God, the father, and mama, and my mother." They'll never put the father first. They always say they mama and shit. Oh, if it wasn't for my mama, she was my dad and my mama. She was. I always hear guys say that. And I don't have that high esteem or respect for them after their great accomplishment. I don't think highly of them because I know the strength of a little boy is through his father, through the seed that created him, And I understand on both sides as a kid that has no love for their father or no knowledge of who their father is. That's what it is. And all these single parent homes that are not complete and always are lacking. And that's why these people are not imperial, living as kings and queens. That's why they can't call themselves a king or a queen, because they're not imperial because of this thing. To be imperial, there has to be a king and a queen. There has to be a father and a mother to record the history of your family and have a family tree and a family history from the day that the union of your father and your mother. See, and those kids always say that in this country, in the United States. Oh, mama was, she was mama and she had to play the role of our father too. But I don't believe so. And that's what historically went wrong with the Egyptian Empire. And most after the historical Trojan War, the mythical Trojan War, all of the men went to the Trojan War and didn't come back home. And then the women were left with the children. And they rose the family. It's in the annals of the kings of Egypt, this is what happened. The Trojan Wars, like the 13th through the 18th dynasty in Egypt. Let's talk about it. 13th to the 18th dynasty, and that's the obelisk in the Vatican, Rome, where when the Romans took the obelisk out of Egypt after the Battle of Actium, like 30 BC, the time that Antony and Cleopatra died against the Roman Empire coming against Egypt at Alexandria. So this is the history of this Greek revival in 1776 to the present day, 2019. We're going to do the math. But it's chronicled in second intermediate period, 1785 through 1544 BC, Dynasty 13 at Memphis, to Dynasty 18 at Thebes or Thebes. The horses changed, seats of government changed, and different norms of Egypt began to reign. over the Great House. The Great House in Egypt is at the Giza Pyramid complex where the Great Sphinx is. And to this day, this is how they chronicle who is the king of Egypt to this day. And man, currently they're under the Ottoman Turks, who have possession of the Great House. It's just the three pyramids in Egypt and the Great Sphinx. Whoever was to have possession of that place was Crown Royal and Imperial, because that's who formerly were the kings and queens on the earth, from the land of Kemet, of Egypt, and all of the surrounding cities that came from building that complex right there. That's the Great House. That's where the God is. I'm the Lord your God from the land of Egypt. Okay, we're talking about the 13th dynasty. They say it's from 1785 to 1650 BC. And the 18th dynasty is from 1554 to 1304 BC. So this is historical or biblical. This is the time that the Israelites, the children of Israel, dwelled in the land of Egypt. Now, they came into the land of Egypt during the 12th dynasty, which was 1991 through 1786 BC. The birth of Moses was in the 13th dynasty. So wherever the Bible ends in Genesis, it ends in the 12th dynasty in Egypt. Then the Exodus begins in the 13th dynasty. Okay, which is 1785 through 1544 BC. So the way the Greeks, all the European biblical scholars have learned their information in the north and the west with the Northwest Schism, they don't have the information accurate when they try to say all about their mythological gods that they derive themselves from, and all of the things that they believe in. It's off course, but they have learned all of their information from the Phoenicians. They learned their language from the Phoenicians, who were linked to the pharaohs and the kings of Egypt, who had possession of the Great House, the Giza complex with the Great Sphinx. Whoever is in possession of that is the royal family on the earth. Whoever has the knowledge of those things could govern the whole world. So, because in that place, it has all of the mysteries of the ancient world and all of the things in heaven, with the transmigration, the belief in the hereafter, in the future. You look at that Dendara stone, the temple of Dendara, and it maps out the Stargate in every region on the earth where man could possibly be and live at, what an Egyptian would have believed in the ancient Egypt, which was called Kemet, ancient Kemet. Oh, the ruling houses were Kushites, kingdom of Kush, and the kingdom of Canaan. The host that was ruling in Canaan was called Amaru for the Amorites. So I was reading something in the Philadelphia Trumpet. This certain issue right here. And one of the articles was talking about, and the sun stood still, talking about the book of Joshua, chapter 1 through 11. When the conquest of Canaan, when they came out of Egypt with Moses leading them, and then Moses died in Sinai at Jebel Musa, where he is interred. We look at the Valley of the Kings. It says, Moses was interred in the mountain at Sinai, so carved in the Valley of the Kings. Across the Gaza Strip in Hebron and all of those places is where all of the burials of the biblical people they talk about in the Bible, and you read about this people, and maybe the European chroniclers have painted an image that is more European than it looks to be one of the ancient Hippo people that we see on the hieroglyphs or on the cuneiform script with these seals and the image that was on the stones when those stories happened, and when they left it in stone, it doesn't look like the one that the European white man from Britain or the Spanish priest at a Spanish church, or they got the little Jehovah's Witness pamphlets that they just recently publicated in the 1900s, and they give you all of this information. But it doesn't look like the same thing in stone that I see in Egypt. Like the Merneptah Stela, and then it was talking about this Amarna leather with the script of the language of that day, and how these people would speak the language. I'm gonna read part of the article. I wanted to see what it says. It said one of the Bible's most remarkable miracles made headlines in recent months, the time during Joshua's day when the sun stood still. The researchers from the University of Cambridge claim to have identified this event down to the specific day it occurred. According to them, it was in fact an eclipse on October the 30th, 1207 BC. And I don't agree with that date. But I'll on the next program, I will give you the date that I had came up with. And I'll recalculate it. I have it in my notes. I'll dig for that later, but I'm going to just read more to this story. It says, this revelation may come as a surprise, particularly because the Hebrew text has no indication of an eclipse. Here's the passage in question. When spake Joshua to the Lord, and he said, in the sight of Israel, sun, stand thou still, and the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Joshua 10:12-13. That doesn't sound like an eclipse, but Cambridge researchers say the Hebrew word for stood still has the same root as a Babylonian term describing eclipses. These researchers, assuming the scripture refers to an eclipse, developed a new eclipse code from their computations. They were able to identify only one eclipse that occurred between 1500 and 1050 BC on October the 30th, 1207 BC. Scientists then point to the Merneptah Stela, an Egyptian artifact dating to around 1208 BC. And I don't believe that it happened when the time they sent it. I believe it to happen like maybe 1598 BC. Now that's approximate dates from my mind. I got to go look at my notes. I'll go get the notes and continue this discussion. But they're way off. Maybe by almost 400 years. How they have chronicled these events. I think it was earlier than they're saying. Since the Greek historians, Homer is their greatest source of their history, from some mythological made-up gods of the Hellenes that they learned from the Phoenicians, from the Egyptian deities, that the gods of Egypt. The Greeks made their belief system. They made their gods from the gods of Egypt, but they Hellenized them. So, I mean, anything they're telling you, Homer is the father of lies. Homer is the father of the liars that's going to lie to you when their Hellenized belief system and the things they believe in. This Greek revival and the Scottish rites at the White House, at Plymouth Rock, the Plymouth Rock settlement, and the Mayflower Compact that is, fucked over the Indians and took in after Thanksgiving dinner, they decided we don't need the Indians anymore. Crossed their fingers and made the Mayflower Compact and keep their little white lies alive and shit. and keep lying, cheating, stealing everything from everybody else and moving westward and expanding the empire, you know. Can you dig it? Sucker. Fuck them.